I'm beginning this video to discuss my major project, which is called Woodland Creatures. This is the first page of my book where I've looked at different colours, looked at the animal's colour, and looked at the different backgrounds. This is the page where I experimented with trying to make fur out of wool, which was quite successful, but it wasn't very good as a large piece. These are sketches that I've made. This is my journal, by the way. This is my journal book of just doing work, art book, research. Okay, and here's some more sketches. And more sketches. With this one here, I painted the birds, but they didn't look very good. They looked much better as their original black and white, so I put a template over the top with the objective of perhaps making them into applique, but I didn't afterwards. With this page here, I had a look at different styles and ideas about how I may do the background, but of course at this point we were going to screen print, which we can't do now. This page again, I had your feedback, which I placed in my book and sort of took on board all the different changes. This is where I started to think about a background here. And also, this is the time where I started to look at other authors and artists. Marimekko, I quite liked the size of those pieces that she did, which I quite thought of to do in the first instance. I've also looked at the work of Esther McLeod. I liked the sort of informal way that all the flowers had been designed. And then there's Alice Kettle. I discovered her work when I went to Collect 2020. And here are just more pictures which I found inspiring. And I sort of got things out of each picture that I thought I'd like to try in my own work. This is the Collect. I focused on the hair sculpture out of wax. And I had some good ideas from that, mainly how to position the animals with the best effect for my applique work. As you can see, I did have quite a lot of inspiration there towards my work. Another feedback there, which was very useful. And here I have painted watercolours with the objective. They're woodland roses that I found when I went on one of my walks, which I thought could be a possibility. Right, this here is my original first sketch of my beaver. Sorry, my badger. Sorry. So here is my badger, and I started to think about wools and cotton fabrics. And I used this then to create a template, which I've discussed in my journal. Right, this here is another design that I drew out for a piece of work and pinned it already, but I decided it was far too intricate to create into an applique, so I just focused on just a foxglove. This is one of my pieces of work that I'll show you afterwards. It is sewn on monk's nash wool and is all just black running stitches with the poppies highlighted in yellow. These are wild yellow poppies that I sketched down in Brindy Woods. Right, these are the disasters here now. This one here, I decided to applique onto a sheer piece of fabric, but it was far too bulky and it affected the way the fabric draped, so I decided not to use that. It was a sample. Another sample here, which I decided not to use, And another sample here that I decided not to use. It's a bit continuous now. And this is my write-up on other samples that I did, which didn't really work as I expected them to, but I've written comments so that I can think about that in the future. These are 2 pieces I dyed when I was in the studio. I wanted to see if I could actually paint the dye on rather than hand dye and screen it on, but it was a disaster, so I know not to use that method. And that's it for that book. Right, this is the book where I did all my work for the professional promotion. And that's work that I did in the studio. So if we flip all of those over, you can see that I made lots of notes and started thinking about how I would promote myself. Emma's just turning the pages for me here. Right, I don't need that one, Emma. Actually, all of those can be flipped over. I don't need any of those. Okay, right. Right, this is a spider diagram where I started to think about all the things that needed to be included in my CV. I've actually written a lot about this in the journal, so this is just for you to see how I've been sort of doing work and thinking about just the concept, you know, the image, the professional image, what I was going to put in it about myself to give the right impressions. And the letter here, this is where I started to think about what I was going to put in the letter and what was important. This is my press pack. These are all the things I needed to think about that. They're all lists really. It's nothing totally fantastic. It's just where I scribbled notes and just had a really good think about what I was going to do and how I was going to do it. So this is the page here about my website, and I'm really happy. I have actually done a website and a blog, which I never thought I could do, but I did, and I'm really pleased with them. And that's almost it. And here is where I made grids and started to think about the inspiration, like the fox. Who inspired me with that? It was the Sashiko artists, Junko Ono mostly, and Poppies was inspired by Esther McLeod. The lampshade was Marna Lunt and Joe Hill. Basically, I've written all about that in my typed it out in my PowerPoint journal. Karen Nicole was a big inspiration, particularly for the badges. So here I've made a list of all the artists that inspired me, and one by one I had a look, you know, see what they had to say, what their website was like, if they did a blog. That's basically it, really. Oh, here, oh gosh, here's where I started to try and use a name Claire as a logo, but I decided that it wasn't very good after all. And that's it. I'm now going to photograph all of my artwork.